All right, so we had quite the week in the stock market. We actually had a decent week up until about midday on Friday, and then stocks sold off quite significantly to end the day. Basically, if you look at the stock market this week, Nasdaq was down about 2%, the S&P down about 1.7, mid caps were down even more than 2, small caps were down over 3, the Mag 7 was down about 2.5. The equal weight S&P was down about 70 basis points, so that was the best area of the market. That is one of the largest positions, so I didn't get killed quite as bad as the overall market, but I mean, I do have a good sized position in MicroStrategy, so I think it kind of balanced out. First things first here, if you get value out of the video, please like, subscribe, check out those links below. Very much appreciate the support. Getting right into it here, as far as the stock market goes going forward, I kind of changed my view a little bit. I think that I'm a little bit more pessimistic or bearish. I still think we're going to be okay. I don't see a major crash. I do see a good sized pullback at some point though, but I don't see we're going to be down significantly on the year. I think we close roughly flat, maybe even slightly bullish. Mainly because I don't think we've seen the end of inflation, and number two, I don't think we've seen the end of the tariff threat. I think that one of those things, if not something else, will cause a bit of a scare in the market. We go down, 5, 10, 15%, but then I think we close the year on a nice uptrend. That's still my prediction, but I think that we probably go down a little bit more than what I originally thought. So the other story I wanted to get into here briefly, Michael Saylor, there's only room for one nation to buy 20% of the Bitcoin supply, and I think it'll be the United States. I don't think they're going to buy 20%. I just think that that's a crazy amount. I mean, MicroStrategy has about 500,000 coins, and I think that's like 50 billion. So in theory, 5 million Bitcoin would be 500 billion. I mean, Bitcoin's market cap is roughly 2 trillion. So I mean, yeah, 4 or 5 billion would be roughly what they'd have to, 400 or 500 billion. I mean, considering the national debts on a yearly basis is 3 trillion, 3 trillion. And not only that, you calculate it out to 4 years, that's, even if it's 3 trillion, that's 12 trillion. I mean, 500 billion is not even that's 5%, less 4 or 5%. So that's a drop in the bucket. I still don't see them doing it. I still don't see them doing it. But when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto too, this is a really not that partisan of an issue. There's very few Democrats even that are overly anti. I mean, there's some that are very outspoken about it. That's true, but there's not very many of them. This is an issue that is fairly, at least moderately popular amongst Democrats, and I think it's very popular amongst Republicans. Especially if you polled people under 40, this is something that the clear majority of people would be for. Maybe not buying 20%, but buying 500,000, 1 million Bitcoin, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be popular. Especially if you space it out. I don't see any way that wouldn't be popular, or that he would get a lot of heat for it. And this is also something that he's promised, so it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of what. I don't even, the other rumor has been that they're going to buy 1 million Bitcoin over 4 or 5 years. That realistically, that's probably the realistic best case scenario, but that might even still be a little bit more than what we actually get. I just hope we get something. I think that if he scrapped capital gains taxes and stuff like that, that would be arguably as important. If he provided some incentives for mining companies to get into it, if they made it easier for banks to custody it and businesses to use it, I think that would be equally as important. So there's a lot of things that they could do. They're going to do something. It's a matter of what and if. It's not a matter of when. Another important thing here. Vanguard blocks its clients from direct Bitcoin exposure in the name of customer protection, but they're the biggest holder of MicroStrategy. And one point I wanted to bring up here is that there's a lot of people that are probably wondering right now, well, why is Bitcoin not going up? At least recently. And I think this is one of the main reasons. I think the big institutional players, they want to take their positions. And once they have their positions, I think that's when they'll allow the market to go up. That might not be exactly all of it, but I think that is the main reason. I think that, and not only that too, whenever you see bull markets, there's going to be periods that are neat, like where the market goes down, or at the very least goes nowhere, to shake out the weak hands. Like whenever you're in a bull market, there's people that are buying that don't have a clue what they're talking about. And those people are not good for the project. Like they're really not, because you only want the people that know what they're buying. Like this is why XRP and a lot of these, like virtually all of the cryptos are trash, because the people that are buying, they don't know what they're buying. They're buying because other people are buying, right? So that this isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? These lower prices simply means that the smart people get to buy more at a lower price. So I wouldn't necessarily be discouraged at these lower prices. And another thing I'd bring up here is that, does anyone really think that with BlackRock and Vanguard being the second and third largest shareholders respectively, does anybody really think that MicroStrategy, or even Bitcoin for that matter, how can you argue with a straight face that they're going away? Like, if you look at any other asset, the minute that Vanguard and BlackRock go hands-on, they go all in, it's not going away. In fact, it's probably going to skyrocket over the long run. And a lot of people complain about Vanguard and BlackRock, but in my mind, it's the exact same as the anti-Bitcoin FUDs saying that, oh, well, you know, Bitcoin's used by drug dealers, therefore it's a bad thing. It's like, just because bad people use a form of money or an investment doesn't make it bad. Like there are drug dealers and mob bosses and you name it that own real estate, that own the S&P 500. Does that mean that they're bad investments? Like no. So there's a lot of people on the right, or you know, the libertarians, or those kinds of people. Not all of them, but it's a minority, but that say, oh, well, BlackRock owns it, therefore it's bad. It's like, this is such horrible logic. And you yourself question that very logic when it comes to criminals and Bitcoin. Like, people who say that, like, you're so wrong, it's not even funny. Also, we have Cantor Fitzgerald, which is run by Howard Lutnick, which is Trump's Commerce Secretary, that also has $1 billion worth of MicroStrategy. You really think that these kinds of people are loading up, like absolutely, you know, backing up the truck, and we're not going to see good things over the next 4 or 5 years? Like, come on. Like, of course we're going to see good things. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, I could be wrong, obviously. We're playing the odds here, but we're playing with some pretty good odds. Like we're sitting with a really good hand here. Also, there's 12 states that now own MicroStrategy, so that's also a very interesting development as well. So I'm still buying MicroStrategy. I very much like MicroStrategy, so I'm going to keep buying MicroStrategy because, I mean, in Canada we have tax-deferred accounts, so you might as well take advantage of it, right? As far as earnings go this week, there is a handful of companies that released, so I wanted to break down the notable ones. Allegiant, ALEE, beat earnings and revenue. I do have them on a watch list. I do not own them at the moment. I have in the past. Arista Networks have never bought because they're too expensive, but I would like to buy. They beat earnings and revenue. They were down in the week. They're just way too expensive. I think that's part of the reason, and I think they sold off with the market as a whole. Occidental Petroleum had a good week. They beat earnings and revenue. One of the better oil and gas companies. I think that there's some that are a little bit better still. That's why I don't own them. The next one here is Toll Brothers. This is one of the best home builders in my opinion. I do have a position in them. I am buying them right now. They release kind of shaky earnings, but I like I said, I think they're one of the better home builders. I think they're going to be fine over the long run still. So lower prices just means a better deal in my opinion. Analog Devices. This is a company I have on a watch list. They were up quite significantly on the week. They did beat earnings and revenue. IIPR is one of the better REITs in my opinion. I did buy a little bit more on their recent pullback. I still think they're a tad undervalued. They also beat earnings and revenue. NDSN is a company I have on a watch list. Do not own them at the moment though. They actually missed earnings and revenue. They looks like they were actually basically flat on the week. Walmart was the biggest company from the past week. They released good earnings. However, they released pretty questionable guidance going forward, and that caused them to sell off quite significantly. So that also, I think, played into the stock market pessimism at the end of the week as well, which is definitely something that part of the reason why I'm concerned about the market going forward. The next one is Universal Display, OLED. They released, they missed earnings, they beat revenue. They were actually up very significantly on the week. They were at 142 to start the week, 144, just under 144, and then they ended up at about 157 and change, so up quite significantly on that news. I do have a good size position in them, so I'm happy to hear that. And the last one here is Vici Properties. This is another REIT that I own. I do have a full position in. I very much do like them. I think they're one of the better REITs out there. They did miss earnings. They beat revenue. They were up on the week. So that was the news from this past week. Like I mentioned at the start there, if you got value, please like, subscribe, comment. Check out those links below and stay tuned for more.